everyone. Welcome to another Spin the Wheel segment. This month's Spin the Wheel is a 20 questions list that I made based on a few 20 questions lists I've seen floating around in different places. But I sort of ended up taking bits and pieces of things and putting in their questions that I ended up thinking would be fun to answer. So hopefully this is fun. It's just meant to be fun because this is all just my opinion, and I'll probably go off on some different tangents and stuff when I talk about this, just because I'm going to kind of analyze why I think certain things. So it does have some analysis in here, just so you know. And there will be spoilers for everything in Warrior Cats at this point, so just be aware of that. But let's get started. So question one, I'll just start with favorite character. That is Jay Feather, 100% Jay Feather. I love Jay Feather. He's got the most interesting personality, I think, in the entire series as far as a main character goes. Because when I see favorite character, I immediately kind of think like, what's your favorite main character? So that's how I'm, thinking about this. But Jay Feather's just so interesting. His internal thoughts and the way he does things. I also think I'm very similar to him personality-wise. Ironically. I kind of relate to him a lot. I also really like Ivypool too. I want her to be the next leader of ThunderClan, for sure. I vote Ivy Star. And I also really like Greywing a lot. I thought he was really good. But Jay Feather is probably the only character I'm like, yay, it's time for their chapter! I love Jay Feather. He's so funny. I love him. Alright, question number 2. Least favorite character. Oh, yeah. I would say that I like most characters, to be quite honest. I find myself hating a lot of the leaders that I just get irritated with in certain books. For instance, I don't like Blue Star, Black Star, or Leaf Star at all. It's fine if you love them. That's totally fine by me. I'll explain later why I don't like them. Well, I guess I could explain now. I don't like Leaf Star because I feel like she's rebellious, I guess. And not rebellious in I'm gonna do the right thing kind of rebellious, kind of like Firestar was a little bit. I feel like Leaf Star just blatantly ignores good advice. For example, in SkyClan, in Firestar's quest, okay, we meet Leaf Dapple, and Firestar gives her all this, good leadership advice as she becomes Leaf Star, like, don't accept kitty pets in your clan as pure kitty pets because they need to pick. Okay, that makes sense. You need to not have kits, which, that rule's a little bit weird, but you can understand, especially for Leaf Star's case, I think some leaders might be in fine shape to have kits. Leaf Star, probably not, just because she was establishing a clan that was pretty new. And all the cats in that clan would have been, first generation SkyClan cats, so they didn't have a set system and culture yet. The cats were unfamiliar with it, so when you get to SkyClan's Destiny, which I read the whole thing, which it was such a bad book, honestly. It was horrible. I got to the point where I forced myself every evening to read 2 chapters in it. It was so sluggish for me to get through it. But I did. I got all the way through it, so I feel like I'm adequate in being able to say I don't like Leaf Star. If you read the entire book, I do not like her at all. I feel like everything Firestar told her to do, she just did the opposite. But for no good reason, really. And I don't like Leaf Star for that reason. I also feel like in A Vision of Shadows, she was kind of whiny and not, I get, it was tough. It was really hard and they were being pushed a lot, but she kind of just left in this huff instead of fighting for it. And that bothered me a lot. I didn't like that. I really wanted to see Leaf Star fight for what she needs and what she wants and not just give in because it was easy. That bothers me. But anyway, that's why I don't like Leaf Star. Black Star, I mostly just have a grudge against him because of Stonefur, who I was really upset. I feel like it was sort of weird that he became leader. but fine. You know, he's kind of a jerk, but you know, it's mostly that I just personally just am like, ugh, I don't like you. And it feels kind of like a fluke that he ends up being leader. I don't like Leafpool because she's whiny at all. For some reason, I don't like cats with Leaf in the name. Go figure. But Leafpool is just very whiny to me. I don't like her. Her problems feel very lackluster. I don't know. She just bothers me. She's kind of like Bluestar reincarnated to me. Like Bluestar, oh, I'm gonna have to talk about her in some detail later, but oh, Bluestar. Oh, I read Bluestar's Prophecy. I read the whole thing, and I hate Bluestar. It was a good book in that it kept me engaged, at least, unlike SkyClan's Destiny, but Bluestar herself is just such a whiny, self-destructive character that I just found it so hard to deal with her as a protagonist. It's like every little thing she just goes into this depression state, and I'm just like, get up and fight it, fight, for what you believe in, but she just, I don't like it. It's like there's nothing redeemable about that, and her having the kids, that was 100% her fault. Like, she knew it. And it's like, then she was like, oh no, I had these kids, and it just felt so like, you knew that. You knew it! Why did you do it? It just, it drives me crazy. I was like, she's just self-destructive in a way that drives me nuts. Also, the clan suffered the most under her leadership. Like, it dwindled, and they were desperate, and I blame that on Bluestar. I do. She just wasn't a good leader, honestly. She was rarely on the front lines at all, and yeah, I don't even, and that's not even, like, I haven't even talked about the point where she gets dementia. That's just total normal Bluestar. And I think the point where I finally realized I just do not like this cat is when she made Tiger Star her deputy, or like Tiger Claw at the time. But I was like, why did you do that? And then when I read Bluestar's Prophecy, it made me even more mad. I'm like, why did you do that? You know Thistleclaw trained him. Why did you do that, Bluestar? Like, it made no sense. White Storm was sitting right over there, and Mousefur. And I'd even say Running Wind, even though he couldn't have an apprentice. That rule is broken so often. I'd even say Running Wind was sitting there as a possible deputy. Plus, there were some queens that hadn't had kits at that point. Why not put one of them as the deputy? Like, it just... Especially, I don't understand why she didn't put White Storm as the deputy. He was such an obvious choice. I mean, she practically raised him. She knew she knew him well. That's her kin, and yes, that might have looked like nepotism, but all the cats in ThunderClan at this point in the leadership roles are related anyway, so why does it matter? It bothers me deeply. What Bluestar's decisions and Bluestar's reaction to the decisions she makes, it bothers me. And that's not even counting the dementia, which honestly isn't her fault. I hated her before that even came into the picture. That just made me, like, more frustrated with the situation, but not Bluestar. I don't like Bluestar. But yeah, that's totally fine. If anyone likes Bluestar, that's just my opinion. All of this is my opinion. Obviously, if you love Bluestar, that's great. Or Leafstar, or Leafpool, or Blackstar. I'm totally cool with that. Alright, favorite arc. That is Arc 5, Dawn of the Clans. I consider that the 5th arc because it came in between A Vision of Shadows and Omen of the Stars. But I love that arc. It felt very interesting and new, and the characters were great. The villains were great, except for like the last 2 books, but I was willing to forgive it personally because I was really more focused on Clear Sky's growth at that point, so it didn't matter to me that the last 2 villains were kind of a flop. I didn't care. I loved it, and all of the epilogue material is so good. I love Dawn of the Clans. I want to know more about Dawn of the Clans. Give me my Riverstar Super Edition. I want it. I would go out and buy it immediately. I love it. Dawn of the Clans is so good. My favorite book in an arc is The Sight. I love that book a lot. I thought it was really cool how they set up the Jay Feather being blind in that book. How it starts out with Jay Feather's POV, but you don't realize he's blind. Something seems off, but you don't realize he's blind until he says it. So it just like throws you for a loop right away, and I was immediately engaged. And I also have good memories of reading that book. I remember exactly when I read it. It was actually, I read it in Hawaii, ironically. It was so funny. On the plane to Hawaii, I finished reading Sunset, the last book in the second arc. I believe it's Sunset. I read that on the plane, and then I got there, and that night, like, I crashed that first night because of the time change, but the second night, I picked up the book and read it, and I was so, like, it was just so cool. Like, I have good memories reading it in general. Between the place and those first few scenes that engaged me. Plus, my cousin had been hinting at that there's a really awesome character in the third arc you're gonna love, and I was like, ooh. And yeah, I loved Jay Feather right away. I immediately loved him. So yeah, The Sight is really, really one of my favorite books. I love that book. My favorite Super Edition right now is Crooked Star's Promise. I have not finished reading Graystripe's Vow yet. It's good, but Crooked Star's Promise for me is still better, overall. It's my favorite out of all the Super Editions. I would say Tall Star's Revenge, is pretty high on that list. I also, surprisingly, I actually enjoyed Crowfeather's Trial and Tigerheart Shadow a lot. Mothlight's Vision I thought was also really good, even though I don't really see people talk about that one that much, which is funny. But Crooked Star's Promise is my favorite. I really felt like there was a defined villain, which is unique for warriors sometimes. And I also like how the villain was more of an internal struggle. Kind of the way that Tall Star was. Like, it wasn't some outside force, it was more inside. And it's so tragic, which, is sad, yes, but it felt like real good Warriors material. I loved it. And Crooked Star is a really interesting character to read about. I really liked him. He's really interesting. So I really like that Super Edition. My favorite novella is Shadow Star's Life, which is funny because I really don't care for Shadow Star as a character too much. I kind of got upset at her because she yelled at my baby Greywing. When she refused to lead WingClan and then suddenly decided, never mind, I actually want to lead, and without telling anyone, and Greywing was still trying to be the leader, and she just yells at him, and I'm like, really? 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 And then my poor baby's depressed, and that made me angry. So I would say I don't like Shadow Star as a character, but her novella feels to me what a novella should be. It felt like it had a very good defined beginning, middle, and end, and there was tension at the beginning with Sun Shadow dying. So immediately it was set up to be like there's something sinister going on, and it had me hooked right away. Because it takes, it takes no time, and just there's something going on, and you got to figure it out. So it felt like a mystery. And it was really interesting because I actually really couldn't figure out who the bad guy was, because I did not expect Quickwater at all to be the villain. I really didn't. I never saw it coming, because which is unique for a book to trick me like that, because I've read a lot of stuff about book analysis, so I can usually predict the villain pretty well. But Quickwater threw me off, but then it all made sense. So I was really, really pleased with the outcome. Plus, I really love this one little scene that I'll get to later when I talk about my favorite moment in the series. That I really love in that book, and it cracks me up so much. I love it. But yeah, and I really like this book. I kind of wish it had gone into, like, I guess from maybe a StarClan point of view, what happened with Ravenstar. Like, I would have loved to see if Shadowstar ended up giving him a life, because Ravenfelt becomes the next leader. So I would have liked to, see something on that, but I can't complain. Honestly, it was such a good novella. It had suspense, but it wasn't drawn out so long that it wasn't, tiring. It was really good. I loved it. My favorite manga, I think that's how it's pronounced, or graphic novel I also wrote, is A Shadow in River Clan. That should be pretty obvious. It's so good. It used to be Sky Clan and the Stranger was my favorite, because I liked seeing Soul's backstory. But A Shadow in River Clan to me is just so good. Like, it's just all about emotional conflict, and it's wonderful. Plus, I love the art of RiverClan's camp, because we don't get to see RiverClan so much in this series, so having any bit of it, especially colored, is just, I was so pleased, I was so happy, I just kept looking at the art. It was really good. I loved it. And I also made me interested to see where Leopard Star's going as a character. So it made me happy all around. I love it so much. I love A Shadow on River Clan. My favorite villain. Most villains I would say I've liked to some degree. But if you've seen me draw, you probably know I like to draw Soul. Because I think he's really like a unique color and I think he's cool looking. But I also think he's an interesting villain because he's one of the few villains in the series I would call a villain that's totally about how he can manipulate and outwit you. Whereas I don't think, like, Darktail is probably another one of my favorite villains. Darktail is smart, don't get me wrong, but he's also not above using strength to get his way and his point across. I like how Soul really doesn't have that going for him at all. He's not strong. He's a terrible warrior, but at the same time, he wants something and he's willing to manipulate or he'll do lots of different things to try to get his way, and I think it's interesting how he works as a villain. I also want him to be the mastermind behind the imposter, so that would be cool. I think he's a good villain. My favorite leader that I wrote down next, that's actually, and this will sound super basic, it's Firestar. Now, I racked my brain about this, no joke. And I couldn't come to any other conclusion. Firestar is my favorite leader. He's the only leader I felt, I would say, 90% of the time I'm on board with. I feel like he is selfless. I feel like he's noble. I feel like he's everything a leader should aspire to be. Not to say he's flawless, but I think that he ultimately tries his best all the time, and it's not even like it's Blue Star where she's trying but failing ultimately. I feel like Firestar tries and he actually accomplishes something. He's a good leader, and I know it sounds basic, but I just couldn't come to any other conclusion. I feel like he's the best. And I would say secondarily, I do think Misty Star is a good leader. I really do. I know some people get upset, and I know, yes, she did exile Mothwing, which is questionable, but then she did offer to bring her back, so I'm like, I don't know. Like, Misty Star in general, I think she's a good leader. Like, she is. She usually is on board with what Firestar was thinking when they were alive and leaders at the same time. I don't think she's unreasonable. I think that when she did shut off her clan in A Vision of Shadows, she did it with the best intentions. Unlike One Star, who shut off his clan because he's just a jerk, who was scared of his own son and didn't want to take action. Blue Star's daughter, Misty Star. Misty Star shut it off because she wanted to give her clan time to heal. And I felt like that was legit, I can kind of understand that, needing time to think, and figure out, because it's not like she said, oh, we're not part of the clans anymore, it's just, I need time to think, guys, leave me alone, and I felt like that was fair. I can give her credit for that. I also think that it was really cool, the fact that they were shut down and not taking, any of the clans, seriously at all, and not going to gatherings. The fact that Alderheart was there gathering herbs, and they bring him to Misty Star, and she says, okay, gather herbs. Like, that was so nice. She didn't have to do that. Like, she's so logical. Like, okay, I get it. You need these herbs. Go ahead and collect as much as you can, but please don't come back. Like, she feels very reasonable as a leader to me. So, I like that. It's like, I get people want her to die because she's old, and yeah, that's fine. I think that if she goes much further than this arc, it will seem kind of odd. But at the same time, when I talk about Misty Star later, I also don't think it's super weird. I think warrior cats should live longer than they do, because they're cats that are cared for by doctors and everything. I think they should live longer. But anyway, I like Misty Star fine. I wouldn't call her the best. Like, I wouldn't call her, like, she's not Firestar, but she's good. I would also call Tiger Star the second, I think is a good leader. I think he at least tries. Like, there was that whole debacle with Shadow Clan in A Vision of Shadows, but after that, as I'm reading about him in the Broken Code, he seems like a very level-headed leader that's trying his hardest. I also think he's pretty peace-loving and puts up with a lot of crud that the other clans put him through. You know, I do think he's a good leader. I also like a lot of the old leaders, like Hailstar is one of the most underrated leaders. He was a really good leader. Crooked Star was a good leader, I think. Tall Star, I do think was good, overall. I mean, he stole from other clans a bit, but I think he was good. Cedar Star I liked. Sunstar was good. You know, just some other leaders that I'm like, I would say most of the time I thought that they were pretty good leaders. Everyone forgets Dostar, but I do think she tried. Even if the famine was out of her control, but you know, I think she was pretty good. But anyway, Firestar's my favorite, but those are some other leaders I do think are good. My least favorite leader is Leafstar and Bluestar, which they're also my least favorite characters, but I already told you why I don't like them as leaders. I also do not like One Star as a leader, personally. I liked One Whisker fine. One Star's just kind of a jerk and hypocritical, and I don't like him. Like in Crowfeather's trial, when we get to see how he works a bit more, he's just, oof, I don't like One Star. He's just, ugh, I don't like him at all. But yeah, so those are some of my least favorite leaders. I'm not a huge Bramblestar fan, but, you know. I wouldn't call him my least favorite, but he's not my favorite. It felt like he was leader just because he should be leader. But anyway. Then, my least favorite villain. That's Broken Star. Broken Star was just born evil, and grew up evil, and stayed evil, and died evil, and continued to be evil, and died evil again for no reason at all. Except that he was just apparently born a jerk, and I don't even know why. Like, there's no explanation as to why he's bad. Which, you know, you could say is the fault of Yellow Fang's secret. But, I don't know. I felt like it would have been cool if at least he had been born innocent and then having an abusive adoptive mother was maybe what drove him there. Or maybe even against Ragged Star and Yellow Fang's best efforts, he still ended up being evil later because he became ambitious. You know, it felt like he didn't have a reason to be evil, so it kind of bothered me a little bit. As far as a villain, I like most villains. I felt like Broken Star just seems the most illogical of all the villains. My favorite pairing or ship is Windstar and Gorstar. I love them, or Windrunner and Gorspur. I love them. They are just so cute. And then the bonus chapters. I can't remember what book the bonus chapters were in, but in those bonus chapters, when you get Wind's backstory. It's so cute. They have such a cute little ship. I love it. Oh, I love their little dynamic and their relationship, and that's why I do like Mothflight's vision. I really like seeing how they interact and the kind of parents they are, and I just think they're so cute. I love them. That's my favorite pairing. My least favorite pairing, on the other hand, is Squirrelflight and Brambleclaw Star. I don't like it. Not, like, in theory, it's a cute ship because it's kind of like, I feel like it was forced because, you know, we're supposed to have Firestar's lineage becoming married with Tiger Star's lineage, and they were arch villains, but their, you know, children are gonna become mates and serve a higher purpose. Like, it's real Lion King 2 to me, which is fine. Like, I was on board for it, but Squirrelflight and Brambleclaw Star don't seem to even get along, so it feels forced to me. It's not like Kovu and Kiara in the second Lion King movie feel like they get along at least. Like, Squirrelflight and Brambleclaw don't, and it just drives me crazy how much they fight, and they break up, and then they fight, and then they get together again, and they fight. Like, it drives me nuts. I'm just like, just figure it out. I don't like you guys. We're together. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I just wanted something a little bit better than that on that end. My favorite clan is River Clan. I think that, and I know a lot of people say this, but I really think River Clan actually has the most going for it as far as a clan that is unique. River Clan cats, you know, for one thing, they're the only clan that swims. They have really strong skill in fishing, which I think is interesting when you read about them. Like in Crooked Star's Promise, they go into detail on how they learn to fish and how they go about fishing. They also have this unique aspect of their culture where they like to decorate their dens with little decorative feathers and rocks. Like, they have this aesthetic, and I think it's really interesting. I also feel like, as far as the clans go, like, each clan has this way they interact with their leader, which I think is interesting. Like, ThunderClan, at least anymore, I feel like the leader sits in this high position where it's almost like they're just this, like, oh, that's our leader. Like, Bristlefrost, is like, oh, my leader's talking to me. Oh my goodness, you know, I must be a good warrior. Like, you know, like ThunderClan leaders anymore sit in such this high profile position that they almost don't interact with their clan anymore, except for their inner circle. Wind Clan feels more genuine, but usually the leaders are so grumpy that you can't, like, even approach them. And Shadow Clan's kind of in the same boat. It's not like they aren't approachable, but it's usually they only approach warriors to scold them for something. Sky Clan feels personal, but at the same time, I just, ugh. I've only had Leaf Star to go off of. If Hawkwing becomes leader, I might change my mind, but I feel like right now, like, Sky Clan's just kind of a hot mess, in my opinion. But River Clan feels different to me. River Clan leaders always seem very invested in all of their cats. Like, for example, like, Hailstar is very much involved in what Crooked Star, or Crooked, you know, Kitpaw Jaw at the time was doing, and, you know, he encouraged him a lot, and he talked to all his cats, and they made decisions together, and, like, they just seem very close-knit as a clan, and I appreciate that about them. So, between all those aspects, I would say River Clan, to me, actually has the most interesting parts to it. I just wish that they were treated as, you know, like, they were given more attention in the series, is my only thing I really wish was changed about them. Because we really don't know much about River Clan, but the little glimpses I've seen I love and I want more of, which, you know, I think needs to be in the series a little bit. Because it is an interesting clan. I think it has a lot of interesting things. The underrated character, in my opinion. I'm not sure. Underrated. I wrote down some options, but now I'm like, why did I do that? Because I don't know that these characters are underrated. I don't know, like, I feel like a lot of Dawn of the Clans characters are maybe underrated a little bit. I feel like Stormfur is underrated, and what he went through. I feel like River Clan cats in general can be underrated a lot because they don't get much attention. Like Feathertail, Stormfur, Crooked Star, Hailstar, a lot of Dawn of the Clans characters. Yeah, I guess that pretty much covers it. I would say that those characters I feel like I'd love more about, but haven't seen. I guess some other underrated characters would be some of the Dark Forest cats. Not like the high-profile Dark Forest cats, but some of the lesser ones like Snowtuft, Maggottail. You know, I want to know more about them, so maybe that's what I'll base this off of, like, underrated, like, cats I wish I knew more about. I feel like Rock is kind of over and underrated at the same time. Like, in the, you know, people do a lot of fan art, but it's mostly because he's ugly. Like, I'm really interested in what Rock is about, in that I don't feel like the writers care to write more. But, I feel like he's underrated in that regard, at least. The overrated characters. I would say most villains are overrated because people like to draw fan art of the villains, which is beautiful. But another character I would say I personally was let down about, just personally, was Needletail. My cousin was like, oh, you're gonna love this character in A Vision of Shadows, and she does it to me a lot, as you can tell. But sometimes I disagree. I read about Needletail, and at first I was interested in her. She seemed cool, but I was under the impression she'd be a main character, which I think A Vision of Shadows suffered from overall. Was not having her as a main character and instead having Violet Shine, I think that it would have been better if Needletail had actually been one of the main characters. But either way, I would say that for me, Needletail was basically just a jerk because her boyfriend was part of the kin. And once he died, she basically just sat around and did nothing until they pulled her out and were like, well, kill Violet, Paw. And then Needletail was just a good person and didn't do that. But that, I don't think that means that she should have, like, oh, Needletail's so sacrificial. Like, that was just what she should do because she basically raised Violet Shine. You know? I don't know. I don't feel like Needletail did all that much to warrant what people make her out to be, at least. I was let down personally by her, I guess I would say. I expected her to be more than she was. Now, I could change my opinion here. That's why I don't talk about characters till I've known if they've gotten all their arc or not. Needletail could get a super edition or a novella, and I'd read it, and it might clarify a lot for me. But right now, just based on her arc and her bonus chapter, I don't feel like she did all that much to deserve as much attention for a Vision of Shadows as she gets anyway. My favorite friendship in the series. I like Jay Feather and Briarlight's friendship, which is a pretty obvious one, I would say. Most people like that friendship. People draw fan art for that all the time. I really like Tall Stars and Jake's friendship. I thought that was really sweet. I'm trying to think of the name. It's Plum Willow. That's it. I always want to say Plum Stone because that's the ThunderClan cat, but it's Plum Willow. I loved Plum Willow and Hawkwing's friendship in his book, Hawkwing's Journey. I liked it because it was so sweet to see him raise her kits and treat her, like, oh, I can't love her, but I'm gonna help her do this because it's it's a nice thing to do, and they bond as friends over that. And I like it because it basically shows, like, they don't need to have, they don't need to be a couple to do that. Like, he can just be a nice, decent friend and still treat her kits kindly and want to be nice to them. And I think that was really sweet. I really liked that friendship. I would say that's probably my favorite friendship. And I didn't see it really coming all that much, so I really liked that. My favorite moment is, well, for one thing, I like Jay Feather's, couple chapters where he doesn't tell you he's blind, but he is. I like that. I love, that scene in Crooked Star's Promise where he's yelling around the camp that, I'm gonna have kids! It was just so precious. I loved that. I like that one scene. I don't remember which book it's in, but Jay Feather goes back to camp and Lion Blaze is like, have you seen Jay Feather? And the cats are just like, yeah, he came into camp, yelled at everybody, and then went to his den. Yeah, he's fine. He's totally fine. Like, it's just so funny. And I also like this one scene, I got back to it now, in Shadowstar's life, where we get Shadowstar and Pebbleheart having a little discussion, and she's like, Pebbleheart, I'm on my last life, and he's like, what in the world? How did you get on your last life already? And he's like counting off. He's like, well, there was this and this. And she's just like, yeah, but there was also this one time. And he's like, you didn't tell me? And she's like, I'm sorry. And it was just funny. It was really, really funny scene. I loved. I was belly laughing at that scene because it was really funny and it felt on point with their characters. Like Pebbleheart. Too many cats with similar names. Pebbleheart is such a fretter, and then you have Shadowstar who's like tomboyish, kind of kick butt, like, oh, it's fine, nothing, and Pebbleheart's like, no, it's not. You need to tell me these things, and I thought it was funny. My favorite minor character, I'm gonna call Riverstar a minor character at this point. I really liked him. I loved his role in Dawn of the Clans. I thought he was super interesting how he's just so laid back and he's just like, oh, you guys need help? Sure, I'm in it. Like, he's laid back, but he's not lazy. Which I feel like describes RiverClan in its entirety, and I loved it. Like, I love how Riverstar's totally on board with helping out with anyone's problems, but at the same time, he's super laid back about it and super logical. And I don't know. I just think he's a really interesting, like, background character to have in the series. He's on board with a lot of things and doesn't, overthink or freak out too much, which I like. I also really like Sandy Nose as a secondary character, like as a minor character, because Sandy Nose is he's interesting. He has lots of personality, and even though like he has like an obviously, yeah, sure, he has a jealous little itch when he finds out Hawkwing's been raising his kits. But yet he's still kind about it. He's still like, would you like to come over, Hawkwing, and spend some time? Like he's kind and nice, and it feels like he's actually a good guy, and I think he's interesting. I'm sad he's dead. I liked him a lot, and I'm gonna miss him. I also think Berrynose was an interesting minor character. I wouldn't call him like my favorite, but I always thought it was interesting that if ever there was like a cat yelling at another cat on a patrol, it's like, I bet it's Berrynose, and sure enough, it was Berrynose. Like, I like how they at least kept him as a pretty prominent character in the series. Like, I don't think all the minor characters get a lot of attention. Like, I don't think I've heard Leafshade or Hollytuft talk once that I can think of, and at all. Like, it's almost comical at this point. Like, do they even exist? Like, I don't know. So I like how Berrynose is at least a minor character who talked a little bit. Like, that was good. But yeah. And the saddest death was definitely Greywing. Oh, that tore me up. I was sobbing. It's so horrible. I read it alone at night, which probably wasn't a good thing. And I was just, like, crying so hard. I was like, no! I did not see it coming at all. I really didn't think he was gonna die, because it didn't seem that bad to me. Like, oh, he has asthma. My cat actually has asthma, so I was like, oh, it can't be that bad, right? But no, apparently it wasn't just really asthma. It must have been damaged, actually, because it kind of progressed to getting worse and worse. Or maybe it's because he was a wild cat. I don't know. I feel like they had medicine, so it shouldn't have progressed that bad. But, hey, maybe it did. I don't know. But then it just felt so sad because he's talking with his kids and they're like, what's wrong? And he's just like, oh, let's name the clans, kid. And it just made me, I was just bawling as they're like, oh, look, there's Thunder Clan. Oh, and that can be River Clan. It's like, what clan do we live in? And he's like, Wind Clan. I was like, ah, I can't do it. It's making me so sad. Oh, I hated his death a lot. Like, it was so sad. It was good death. Don't get me wrong. It was really good, but it was so sad, and it felt. And then he's just like, I've loved so much, and I'm like, you poor guy. All you've been through, and you're just thinking about all the positives. Like, he wasn't 1 ounce bitter about it, and it made me so sad. I also thought Micah's death was pretty sad, in that I felt like it was so sudden that. It just, I don't know, it just felt sad to me because it's like, oh no, like it was such a sudden little tragedy that I found it sad. And Willow Breeze, I think it is, Crooked Star's mate, dying, I also thought was really sad because it was kind of that same thing, like, let's name our kids Crooked Star. I hated that. I was like, no, not Willow Breeze. I think that was her name. But yeah, I thought that was. Yeah, I didn't like those. Like, those deaths, I liked them because obviously they kept me engaged, but at the same time, it's like, oh, they tore me up really bad. And, yeah, I thought those were sad. So anyway, that was my 20 questions list that I kind of stitched together from bits and pieces of other ones I've seen floating around different places. But I hope that was interesting, and I hope it gave me a chance to do some analysis on little bits of things. I'll probably go into detail later on anyway, but at least for now, you have some a little bit more of how I view certain characters and stuff. But anyway, I hope you guys liked this. I hope it was fun. I'll see you guys later. Bye.